Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the Centre Circle podcast, the new arm of West Midlands football. I'm your host, Dale Nichols. Usually joining me would be regular panel members Drew, Alex, and Sam, but as they are still basking in the glory of the 3 points from yesterday, it's left for me to pick up the pieces. Joining me today, we've got lifelong Wolves fan Mark. How you doing, Mark?
Guys, yeah, good to be here.
Right, straight in, balls deep, no messing around. For I do a recap of this weekend's action. I've got some quick fire questions for you, just to introduce yourself to the viewers. So, question: favourite ever player for the club?
I caught the back end of the Bully era. I guess Bully's up there. Modern day is going to be Neves. I think it's going to be a toss-up between them both. I'd probably say Bully at the moment.
Question 2: best game you've ever been to involving your club?
Torino away last year. I'm probably missing loads there, but it's the one that comes to mind. I remember flying out to it and just thinking, like, we've made it. Like, this is, all them games used to go on a Tuesday night away, places like that, and just to be, that was the first European away I did, and like that was, it was magic. So
yeah, I thought I had a feeling you might have said that one, to be honest. Just a bit of a shame, really, weren't it, with the European sort of tour, that obviously we had one of the group games was behind closed doors, obviously the same with Olympiacos, and then deeper in the competition, it was taken away from us anyway because we ended up playing at neutral venues. So
yeah,
it's a little bit sad, really, that, chances are, do we know when that might come around again? We really don't. So
exactly.
yeah, I had a feeling you might have said Torino. I think honourable shout may have been Charlton away as well.
Oh, like Charlton away. Joe, what the last game I went to before lockdown, Tottenham away last year. That was insane. Charlton away that year, 3-2, ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, there's loads. I think the Torino game is probably more just what it meant. The actual game of football itself, playoff final, that's another. So yeah, there's quite a few. It's but Torino's just like you say. I think we kind of feel like, me and the lads I go with. I'm sure all the Wolves fans feel the same with it. But we feel a bit cheated. We've never had that, like, sounds deep, but like some closure on it, if that makes sense. We've never seen our side get knocked out. We should have been there against Sevilla. It feels all wrong the way it ended. So the quicker we get back in it, the better.
Yeah. Question 3: favourite away ground you've ever been to?
That new Tottenham ground summit. I've been there. I've been lucky enough to be here quite a few times. That's up there. Braga. That's some ground. Although we had to walk for half hour in probably the worst rain I've ever dealt with, and that was horrendous. But Braga's a very weird ground because it's got it's got like a quarry at the end of the one end. Very weird stadium. Yeah, Tottenham, I'd say, in terms of like what a stadium and what it is. Yeah.
First football match you ever went to?
So this was one of the only questions I knew you were going to ask. My first Wolves game. Joe, what? I think I've butchered the date now. I want to say it was March '97. I went to Wolves at home against Ipswich. We drew 0-0, and it was a pretty poor game of football. I went the week after, or a couple of weeks after, against Tranmere, beat them, and then that's it. So yeah, that was my first game I went to.
And question 5: who's the most underrated player currently at your club?
Oh, this would have been easy last year. Underrated. I probably by me, to be honest. Until he's come back in the squad, I think Johnny is up there. I think obviously we'll talk about how it's all going now, but the run of results have definitely improved since he's come back in. Now, I don't think a left back changes all that much, but I think there's probably a lot more to him. I wasn't his biggest fan this time last year, if I'm honest. I thought it was too defensive, but I think at the moment it's exactly what we need. Patricio as well. I think he's got errors in him, but I saw a stat literally just on the game just now. They showed most clean sheets since the start of last year. He's got 20 clean sheets. Like, that's a ridiculous number, really. So,
Wow.
yeah, I'd say Johnny. Is the standout.
I think we've only got 6 all season, haven't we? So that is quite a surprising stat, really.
Yeah.
Okay then. Just a brief overview of the weekend then. Saw Albion survive a VAR and Lee Mason masterclass to notch up their 3rd win of the season in a 1-0 win over Brighton. Birmingham came from behind to beat QPR and continue their recent resurgence with a 2-1 win, courtesy of Aitor Karanka masterclass. And Aston Villa battled on the front line to scrape a 1-0 win away at Ellen Road. But he took to St James's Park, where we'll be heading to. It's another shocking first half no-show. 17th time this season where we've leaked the first goal. It's statistics that to me are getting ever-growing concern, and they've never really been addressed, and we're in our 3rd year back in the Premier League. What did you think to the game, Mark?
I said at half-time to someone yesterday, this will be one of them games where the result defines on what people think of it. So, was it as bad as Crystal Palace away? Nah. Was it as good as, the recent few games where we have won games and we've looked a lot better? No, it wasn't. But I think if we win that 1-0, I think most people you walk away and go, it's classic away performance kind of thing. Like, I think our problem stems. I mean, the worrying thing is it's the same problems we've had for 3 years. The year we won the championship, we were the best team, and I still think we were the best team ever in that league. The only honourable mention would be the Reading team that's got the record, obviously. That year, Sunderland were the worst team by a country mile. We didn't even score a goal against them. The year after was the Huddersfield year. Everyone beat Huddersfield. We didn't. And
they did the double, didn't they?
Yeah, as did Sunderland.
I think we drew at their place. Drew at home to 0-0.
We drew at home. Sorry, yeah, we didn't score. That was it. Yeah, I remember going to the last game, and I mean, Joe, what the last game is a bit of a misleading stat because the team was poor that day, really poor. Like, I think the centre halves were Danny Bart and Roderick Miranda. So, like, that's what we were sort of on. But yeah, like, we just don't play well against the worst teams, but. We've got a lot of frustrating players, a lot of frustrating players, but I don't think it's a quick fix. But I think I said to you yesterday, like, we've got 3 centre halves in the team yesterday that were all natural centre midfielders. Now, okay, Sice and Cody have kind of earned their keep as a first position centre back now, but we don't have that commanding centre half. And when you're going to have 3 players at the back, like we have, you're going to concede the goals like you did yesterday, where free header, no one tracks him. It's just poor. It's just poor at the back. We've responded really well. I think Neves stepped up yesterday because he actually had a poor game, I thought, up until about 60 minutes or so. And then once he'd scored, he was like a man possessed.
Yeah, well, to be honest with Neves, it's actually quite surprising, isn't it? Because there was that mad stat about him for so long that he had so many touches in the opposition box, and I think they were actually on the penalties that he'd taken. So for him to surging into the box late like that, and all the credit in the world, it was actually a fantastic header as well.
I mean, if you're a Newcastle fan, you obviously should focus on it.
Yeah, the keeper probably should save it, but he still steered that on target, and he still made it. He still put the ball in and, what deemed to be an unsavable position. Neto again, the way he's burst down that channel, he stood the ball up perfectly.
I thought it was his worst game for a while.
He's the only shining light in this team for me at the moment.
I thought he had a poor game yesterday, personally. I think he's set up for the goal. He's got class. Like, and when I'm saying that, I don't mean I think he's a bad player. I just think recently he's been the absolute driving force behind any result we've had. And I thought yesterday he just wasn't really at it. The one thing I do think is I think that kid's destined for really good things, really good. But the one thing I think he has to improve before he goes somewhere else is his backtracking. I think his backtracking is as bad as Traore, which says a lot. I think people keep saying we miss Doherty. I don't see it personally. I think we miss Jota. That's the player we miss. We miss that. Joe, last year we used to moan that Jota used to miss countless one-on-ones, countless chances. We don't even have the chances anymore.
A lot of his chances were self-made as well.
Oh yeah, like one of the most unplayable. On his day, he is probably the best player I've ever seen play for Wolves. Other him or Moutinho. Like,
I think, well, you've only got to look at probably, I think he's hit the third goal at Spurs away last year. The things that Jota's done to create that goal, that's everything there in a nutshell right there. That's
the Man United goal. The quarter-final.
Yeah, was he? Who was the centre half that he put on his arse?
He put Luke Shaw on his arse.
Luke Shaw, that's it. Yeah, just unbelievable. I was absolutely gutted when we sold him. Can completely understand, why. Obviously, the champions of England come knocking. It's very hard to keep a player when especially at his age as well, when he's got a massive career ahead of him. But just touching on one of the things that you've just said there, and that's Adama Traore. I've been quite vocal on him in recent weeks. I'd be quite happy to see him shown the door in the summer. I still think we could demand a decent price for him. He's 25 years of age. We've definitely got the best out of him. I think personally he holds us back as a team. It's constant misplaced passes, sulking, shrugs of the shoulders, and it's just general lazy attitude.
Yeah, Joe, what, like, yes, it's weird because if we'd have done this a week ago, I could have really gone in on him. But like yesterday, I think he was our best player personally. I think he was the only player. He was the only player for 90 minutes looked like doing anything. I think there's a player in there to a degree, but I think I tweeted out yesterday. Some maximum is what we think. What Wolves fans think Adama Traore is. He's a far superior player, and I think there's more in the league. I think, don't get me wrong, his burst of pace is unreal. Like, that is a different level. But he's just not good. Like, the stats on him are horrendous, and when a couple of lads listen to this, they'll laugh because I'm bringing it up again. But so Adama Traore has played 1,800. This was corrected this morning. It's actually gone up. He's played 1,800 minutes this season, according to some stat website. Do you know how many shots on target he's had?
I'm going to just have a wild guess at 0.
He's had 5. 5 shots on target in nearly 2,000 minutes of football. Like, I know you can say end product's not good, but like, at least put it on goal. Like, Neto had 4. To put it in context, Neto had 4 last week. Last week was against Southampton, or the week before?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. 4. He had 4 on target in one game. Now, I don't think he's just the problem. I think this team isn't great going forward, and I think offensive numbers are never going to look good for any player in our team. But 5 shots on target, I mean, Timo Werner, all right, different story, but Timo Werner's getting roasted for scoring 5 goals. Our bloke's had 5 shots. So I'm not massive on him. I think we should have cashed in last year, personally.
Absolutely, yeah. We should have forced him onto Liverpool.
I don't believe the rumours. I really don't. I've never heard so much said about somebody who hasn't scored or assisted in 25 games.
It is crazy.
Like, 25 games, he's not contributed a goal. Like, why are we talking 40 million? Like, I haven't contributed that. Like,
yeah, get him gone.
Yeah.
Wherever he goes, I'll fucking piggyback him there.
Yeah.
I'll try it anyway.
He's not bad, but like, yeah, I can get behind him when he plays, but nah, not for me. Podence and Neto I would much rather see on the wings than Traore, to be honest.
100%. Just on the attacking side of things then at the moment, do you think that Willian is getting a free pass at the moment?
Nah, not by any stretch. I think people are being a bit overcritical, if I'm honest. Again, his debut was the Palace game, and I think that was as bad as the Albion game was. We created chances in that, and like against a very poor team, admittedly, but we created stuff in that. Whereas the Palace game was just an absolute abomination. It was absolutely awful. That was his debut, but then after that, we sort of picked up, and I think we've got the results with him in the squad. Like, has he contributed? Maybe not, but then you could say that he contributed the goal yesterday in the fact that if you watch the goal again, his run across the box drags defenders away from Neves, meaning Neves has got a free header at the back post, in the middle of the goal. He's not long term for me, really, but we needed a striker, and I think our owners get a lot of flack because of the Mendes links, and saying that Fabio Silva, for example, has just been bought for the sake of people to earn a bit of money in that. But I thought it was a really good signing, Jose, because we don't want to get a really poor quality player in, but also you factor in COVID, plus the fact that everyone knows that we need a striker. We were never going to get one on the cheap. People were talking about Origi. Do you think Liverpool are going to do us favours because we let Jota go to him? Like, no, not at all. Like,
I
wouldn't want him anyway.
Himself.
I wouldn't want him anyway. But like, to get someone like that in on loan, I think was probably about as good as we were going to get, and I think it's taken a bit of pressure off Silva, which is what he needed. That the manager wasn't giving him. As much as I love Nuno, I think he's very poor at not taking pressure off his own players. Silva being one of them. I think Dendoncker at the minute, I think the guy needs a rest. I love Dendoncker, but he everything he touches at the minute just goes south. Like and that's where I think Nuno's probably got to improve, because at the end of the day, you've got to protect your players. But
a lot of that comes down to the small squad policy, though, as well, doesn't it? We haven't got the options to be bringing in players, like you say. Can we afford to be taking Dendoncker out of the team for two games, 3 games? Bring Fabio.
I think in that one you can, because you've got Kilman
thrown in 2 years early. I couldn't get my head around it yesterday. I actually thought that he probably should have brought him on earlier and pulled the trigger. I think where we are now within the rest of this league season, it's far too passive and conservative for me. We're going away to Newcastle. We should be throwing the jugular at it. We've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? It's one of them where, like, we started the season, we changed. There's a lot of this, and people who want Nuno out sort of have a bit of a whinge about this sort of these words, but transition season, I don't buy that at all. Like, I don't personally buy that. Like, there's no one writes a season off. Like, you don't write a season off. But they wanted to play a different style of football so that they would go to a team like Newcastle and dominate the ball. I think we've gone back to our roots now, where we're not going to do that. But I think we have to accept that that's where we're at. That we don't go and dominate teams, and I expect a pretty good game on Tuesday night against City. I think we'll be competitive, and I think this is the rough with the smooth. You go to a place like Newcastle where you think you should dominate. You don't dominate because it's not in your DNA to do it. But then you'll go to someone like City and actually compete. Now I've said it, we'll be about 3 or 4-0 down after 10 minutes. But like, even the most ardent Nuno out person or critic of Nuno would say we go into those games probably with a better chance than most. Like, I'd be more confident on a team like Wolves, for example, going to the Etihad and getting something than I would a team like Arsenal. Like, we play a style of football that's going to frustrate. So I think it's part of it. I think we need to move away from where we're at, but I think at the moment we take a risk of moving severely backwards. And the way we play now gets us points. And because we're still fighting for something in the league, I guess, but we're going to have to get some massive results.
Is it a little bit too little, too late? Do you think? Just should he have reacted earlier? I think I always point to one turning point for me was Brighton away. Blowing that 3-1 lead like that was just unforgivable for me. And that was the point when I really started to ask serious questions. I thought at that point then, something needed to give when he, whether it was that Nuno, was moved on, whether we went a different direction with a new manager, because at that point the season was completely finished for me. The chances of competing for a top 7 or 8 place was pretty much gone. And we were slipping slowly and surely towards that relegation battle. Now, at that time, we were so fortunate that the teams in 19th and 20th were so poor, and Fulham were cut adrift a little bit at that point, that psychologically we weren't fully sucked in. And the results after that, then obviously we'd got a result, the stinker at Burnley, the stinker at Palace. He has changed something. Players coming back into the team like Johnny, Bolly, but they're not good, like you said, they're not going to make a huge difference to the performance level. Something has changed. We've got decent results against Chelsea, decent results against Leicester. Arsenal were being played off the park until 10 men, but we still won the game by hook or by crook. Southampton, again, first half was absolutely piss poor, but second half something clicked, and that was the Wolves that we've grown to love, the excitement. That second 45 minutes was fantastic, and it brought everything back of what we've been for 2.5 years. And should something have been done earlier? I mean, I maybe was a little bit overcritical in saying, get him out. He deserves better than that. He deserves to sort of go on his own terms. But my theory was that, bringing up the word transition again, it was the perfect opportunity with a season completely done and written off at that point to have gone a different direction. Because I can only see the same cycle happening again.
I know what you mean. I know people get frustrated with it, but I think, and I get bored of hearing the same things with Wolves, because we're a team where no one really cares, like outside of the club. You tell by the commentators, that's why you can play Wolves commentator bingo. When Jimenez injury, Kilman used to play futsal, fluent in Russian. Kilman, like there's loads of them. They just say the same stuff every week. But Jimenez injury, right? Like, I don't know what it is after yesterday, but up until yesterday, we were a point worse off, were we? Or 2 points worse off than the year before?
Yeah, I think it was 2, yeah.
Now,
if we'd have won yesterday, we would have been level with what we were the season before.
Yeah. So, how many points is Jimenez worth? It's got to be 5 or 6.
Possibly more.
In games where we haven't scored a goal,
yeah.
like in games we haven't scored at all, like it's just worth points. How many is like the atmosphere at Wolves? I think that's probably a wash, if I'm honest, the fans with us, because we have that Albion game, we wouldn't have lost that if that was a full Molineux. I think once you go 1 down and go back to 2-1, I think that'd have been it. I think we'd have been good then. On the flip side, though, I think there's games like Arsenal we would have never got back into because fans were just clocked off, and it would have been a toxic environment to be in. So I think the fans probably aren't worth that much at this point. But like Jimenez's injury, like we could be 6 points better off. Like when he got injured, when we beat Arsenal, well, did we go 4th that night or something ridiculous?
I can't remember.
We
did have a great start, didn't we?
That night we went, but we were poor. We were really poor. The quality is, and I always say the same thing. People don't care how you play. This stuff of I want to be entertained. Yeah, you do, but you want to win. You do want to win because results is what you're driven by at the end of the day. Like whether you go to the game, whether you watch it on TV or whatever you do, you want to win the game. You don't. The performance is always secondary, always.
Absolutely. I mean, Christ, there's teams that have won titles playing ugly football. No one ever points back and says they were a fantastic footballing team, bar very few. You know, the true winners win ugly and win ugly on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
You know, coming back to a couple of points that you mentioned earlier, I think West Brom, I think at half time, my eyes were lit up and I was thinking, bit of revenge. Let's get a 5-1 on the board. Let's get.
I said it at half time.
Exactly how I was thinking about that game. So just moving forward for the club, what do you think the club should do? Should we stick with Nuno? Should we give him a pot of money in the summer?
I think it depends on what the real, like, we all knew, or most people knew what the club's aims were. So when they came in, I think they wanted to be in the Premier League within 3 years. We did it in 2 or 1, 2.
2.
We then got into Europe way quicker than they would have even wanted to. I don't even think that was even on the plan until maybe even this year or maybe next year. I think we're way ahead of where they want to be with the club. The same time, once you get that success, people want it, and I think that's been our problem this year. We haven't had a bad season. We've had a bad season on the back of 2 really good ones. So we've set our own expectations. When we were last in the Premier League, if we were 11th or 12th, whatever we are, with the amount of points we've got now, that would have been our best season in certainly our lifetime. Whereas we've set our own expectations at this point.
Trying to think when we finished under McCarthy. I know the second season, obviously, to become
15th.
Was it 15th and 17th? I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
And obviously then we went back down. Completely different times now, completely different.
Oh, of course the expectation's different. Like, when we first came up, I said this season I think we can finish 7th, and we did. I think we've got to get back to being that competitive again. I don't think teams like West Ham, I don't think Villa will be as good next year. I think both of them are massively, massively helped by no fans, massively. Because both are toxic places to go and watch football when it's not going well. Especially West Ham. I will give Villa their credit. They've got a good little team, to be fair, and I think they're going to be there or thereabouts. But I think next year we've got to look to really establish ourselves back in the top 7. I think the cup game this year is the bad one. I think I know for people like yourself that was a real big day of Nuno out. That was like, and I understand that, because that was a chance to really have a really good season this year, because everything else would be forgotten. I think we need to really try and win a cup next year. I think we should have done it the year we made the semi-final. We should have at least made the final then. That should have been our time to really establish ourselves. And I think money-wise, I think we've got to improve. We have to buy a centre-back. We have to buy a centre midfielder. And we need a plan at striker. When I say a plan, if Jimenez comes back and he's the old Jimenez, yeah, fine. Roll with him. Roll with Fabio Silva off the bench. Get him some more game time. Not a problem. I'm not so sure. And I think I love Jimenez, but if he's not ready to go, we need somebody that is. Whether that's Jose, whether that's Silva, whoever, but we need somebody who's ready to go. I'm optimistic. I really don't think it's as bad as some people think it is. I think we're right on the edge at this point, and I think it's we're at like a balance, like a pivotal point, like a crossroads. I think we either become a Burnley or what Villa used to be. That, when they sort of, before they got relegated, they were always like a 12th was the best they were ever going to do, really. After the years of being like nearly top 4 before it was top 4. Or we start joining that list. And I think teams like Leicester, they are not that far off us. Like, we are not that far.
No, I agree.
Years now. I went to the Leicester game. It was the first away game we played after we got promoted, and we were taught a lesson that day, because we were fantastic for half an hour. Didn't take any of our chances and got blown away 2-0. Since then, we've battered Leicester every game we've played them, or been competitive, should I say? But we've battered them most games. It's the only game I feel like recently we've actually played well for 90 minutes. I thought we were really good the game a couple of weeks ago. But we're not that far from a team like that. From Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United, yeah, we're miles away. We are miles away from that.
I think there's a big difference. But I'll be honest. Obviously, I don't like saying the words nuno because I do think that's disrespectful. I put forward a valid argument as to why I feel he should be moved on, but not to say that he should be hung, drawn, and quartered. I think that's really harsh. I think the difference between us and Leicester does sit in the dugout. I think it really does. And I think that is the difference. I think, if you were to swap the two managers around, you would potentially see the league positions reflect that as well. They've gone all out and brought in a top class coach, and he's getting the best out of a lot of average players. They do have very good players in there. I rate Maddison. I think Ndidi's absolutely quality, and obviously Vardy's goals are just, they're completely invaluable to that team, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think is it Tielemans? Tielemans. So you say his
another
name.
good player.
For me, he's probably one of the most rounded centre midfielders in the entire league. Like, I think he's probably not as good as defending as Ndidi is, but in terms of I think he scored today. To be fair, I think they're a bit more balanced than us. To be honest, I think we are still lining up with three natural centre midfielders at the back. That can't happen next year. I think Connor Cody, a decision has to be made on him. For me, not good enough.
It's not too long ago. He was playing for England and he was playing the best football of his career. I mean, there's no doubt that probably since Christmas, his form's been pretty shocking, and maybe he's one of those other players that needs to be taken out of the team again for just 2 to 3 games. But again, we haven't got that luxury. I'd still keep faith with Cody. I really would, because he did play well enough to get an England call-up, and he did play well for England in those games as well. Long term, I completely agree. Is he at that level where if you want to get into that top 7, top 6, is Cody a good enough player to be arguably your main centre-back and your captain? Leading your team? Probably not, no. But at the moment, I wouldn't be looking to scoot him out the door.
Just while we're on the defence, you asked me earlier the most underrated player. I've completely forgotten him. That's how underrated he is, and that's Bolly. To me, he is. I genuinely think Willy Bolly's a top 10, I'll say conservatively, centre half in the league. I think he's absolutely unreal. He's got everything. He makes a mistake in him, yeah, but who doesn't?
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't have a mistake? But for me, he's absolutely class. And I think we've really missed him. But Cody's just an odd one, man. Like, I love the guy. I love people like him. He reminds me of Dave Edwards. Like, I remember going and watching Cody get booed onto the pitch. I remember getting booed onto the pitch when he came on. Can't remember who it was against, but years ago. But he got booed. He's now the club captain in the club's best era for 40 years, 30 years. Like, unreal. But who would have him? If he left Wolves now, who would have him?
I could be honest. I mean, I actually tipped at one point, like I said, just before Christmas, when his form was there, I thought Liverpool might have come in for him.
Yeah, but they're having anyone now, aren't they?
But they really haven't got the funds, have they? So
they'll take anyone at this point. I mean,
I did think that was a possibility, just on a short-term basis. But another point that you obviously made was about the cup game, and that for me was pretty unforgivable. Again, it would have been. I think he got away with it because of the no fans, and he did it because of the no fans. If fans were in there, I don't think he would have done that.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have at all. Do you know what? Like, I think sometimes people think these people are like, have no emotions and there's nothing behind. Like, there's nothing actually there. And I think when he looks back this year, he'll regret it. Like, I don't think he's a big enough. I don't think he's a stubborn enough person to not give that. I think he would regret the team he put out that day. But I think at the same time, if we win that game and then lose the next 3, the way that Fulham have picked up, he wouldn't be getting criticism, but the club would be getting criticism for being probably 5 points better than off relegation, 6, 7 points off relegation. So it's annoying. It was and it made it even more annoying when you see the draw, and then we got Bournemouth, and it's like, if you get Man City, then you go, do you know what, we'd have probably been out anyway, fine. But that's another day at Wembley, that, albeit we can't actually go. But
Yeah,
I
think it's just the excitement as well. It's the having something to look forward to. To have had that taken away from us, knowing that we're just in 13 games left now for the rest of the season, realistically playing for nothing. So that's 6 months until the start of the next season. What have we actually realistically got to look forward to, other than trying to avoid the Albion taking 6 points off us?
Is another one though. Like I think the FA Cup is the fact that is another one where we live off the 2 seasons. Like, I can't remember. I remember a really good cup run in '98. Got to semi-final. That was like, I remember that. I remember going. Some of them games were great. We had one in 2004 or 5 when we got beat by Southampton.
It was 2003, wasn't it?
Maybe, yeah.
I made the final that year against Arsenal, I think.
Yeah, they did, yeah. And pretty much after that, nothing. Absolutely nothing. The League One season we were out in the first round. Most of the time it's third round, if not fourth. Then first year in the Premier League, get to semi-final. Great. Semi-final every year then, because that's what you see the clubs do. That's what you see Man City do and Chelsea do. And yeah, it doesn't work like that. So no longer are we being beaten by terrible sides, albeit we should have probably been beaten by Chorley. But like, we're not.
You say that. I mean, earlier on in the season, a piss poor Stoke team come and beat our best available 11. I think, bar a couple of players.
Like that cup. I mean, I'm not a hater of, like, I think domestic cups. I remember. I think you mentioned in a podcast before when you were discussing like greatest teams and stuff like that. The like cup competitions don't matter. It depends who you are. If any of our teams, any of the Midlands clubs win a trophy now, so that's as important as Man City winning the Champions League this year. Like, if not bigger, to be honest. Like, to Man City, it doesn't matter. Like, it does not matter one bit. So, but the League Cup this year was never ever going to be a priority, and I think, should it be? Maybe, but it was never going to be. The lack of pre-season and things like that was just, yeah. I think you're always expecting results in that, but generally, under Nuno in the Premier League, our cup results have been good. The only times we've been stopped is by sides that are better than us. Like, we've played United 3 times maybe in cup competitions since in the last couple of years.
Well, I think counting, obviously we played them twice last year, including replays, and then obviously the season before the quarter final.
Didn't we get a League Cup game against them as well? Maybe, but yeah, like it.
Could have done.
We're not losing against bad teams in cups. That I can live with that, and I think that's a problem as well. Of like the selection things, one like that is a problem. But like, we're not going out in round 3 anymore. We are competitive in these competitions. And you asked, I mean, we played Newcastle yesterday. Ask any of their fans, because that's what they ever seem to go on about, is like being competitive in cups, and they're not anymore. And I think you put your name in the hat enough, it'll come out. So I think I do think we've got a real chance in like the FA Cup and things like that in the next couple of years.
Potentially. And I hope you're right anyway. Okay, then. So moving on to a couple of other items that we've sort of picked up on the podcast in recent weeks. Premier League 11. I know you've given it a little bit of thought over the past few days. Just quickly sort of scoot through what would be your 1 to 11 in a flat 4-4-2.
The podcast actually convinced me on goalie. I've never ever considered Cech. When I've been asked that question, it's always been Schmeichel or Van der Sar. But the stats that Conbury someone reeled off about Cech are ridiculous. So I'd probably give it to Cech. Neville picks himself. Cole picks himself. Centre halves are always, for me, it's John Terry. for me, it's either Ferdinand or Company, and I would lean Ferdinand. But I think what Company did and the big goals he scored for City, I think I was surprised he never got a mention. To be fair, the midfield, I've always been a Lampard. I think he rewrote the position. So for me, that's, to get as many goals as he did from midfield is ridiculous. Yeah, he took penalties, fine, but the right wing's a difficult one. Giggs on the left, I've never been a fan, but you can't knock out what he's done. David Silva, Lampard, Giggs, and I think I've sort of said before Pires as another winger off the top of my head.
You couldn't
striker.
You couldn't not have one of the Invincibles in there, could you? To be honest,
no, and I think Hazard as well. Again, I think I've not got it in front of me, so I've probably even gone off what I actually said to you the other day. But one thing I did say when we were speaking about it the other day was Hazard was probably the best player in the world, other than Messi and Ronaldo, when he was on top. Now, was that only a short time? Yeah, it was. Giggs was never the best player in the world. Never even, wouldn't say never close, but not in the conversation. Beckham the same. Ronaldo at United was never even heard of. Like, no one outside of the UK really knew who he was until the back end of his career at United. Whereas I think Hazard was unplayable when he was them 2 years at Chelsea. Up front, Henry picks himself, and then I think it's a toss-up probably between Aguero. I think you've got to give it Aguero, but I want to put Drogba in again. I've never seen. He's probably the best player I've ever seen.
You know what? Come down the Molyneux that once. I think they beat us 2-0. He was absolutely outstanding that day. I think he absolutely bullied our centre backs. I think
I've never seen a more rounded player.
I think it was only Neil Collins at the back, but he just absolutely.
No wonder he looked good.
yeah, but he's done it at all levels in here, and I think one of the things he's record in cup finals as well. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
He's just so well rounded. He was just
brilliant player.
Was he as quick as Henry? No, but he wasn't slow. He was not slow. But the size of the bloke, and he scored all goals as well. Like
big game player. The Champions League final as well.
Another one, by the way, I'd like to shout out. I was really happy when I think it was Alex said it was Van Nistelrooy. Like, loved him, absolutely loved him. Like, he was inside the. I still think he's probably the best finisher of the ball inside the 18, like inside the penalty box. Like, he couldn't do much else, but give him the ball there, and he was.
I think Aguero for me. I just think Aguero. Van Nistelrooy was what was an honourable mention. But again,
if he didn't have his knee injury,
a shocking stat that people do fail to remember is that he only won one title. Van Nistelrooy. He did only win one title. I think he took.
How many years was there? 4?
That is. Yeah, I think so. It's one of my favourite stats, along with Rio Ferdinand, who never won the FA Cup as well. That's a good one. Yeah, I do like that one. Okay, one of the other ones as well is a real hotbed for debate, and that's Premier League managers 1 to 5. How would you rank them?
What, any all time?
Or should I say 2 to 5? Because I think everyone's pretty much universal on number 1, isn't they?
I think Premier League you have to. I think with the thing with Ferguson, it will always be. It will always be there. He did it at one club. Now that's a testament, also a detriment to him when discussing the best ever, because the Premier League is easily number 1. Mourinho 2. I think he did a great job at Chelsea the first time. Yes, he had money, but he really allowed a lot of the players they already had there to excel, and just brought players in around them that complemented them really well. He built the side that won the Champions League, and anybody who that's the spine of that club was built by Mourinho. The Czech, Terry, Lampard, Drogba, that was built by him. Pep ahead of Klopp. Klopp's been here 5 minutes. Like he's won one league, a Champions League. Like not for me. Like I think he's done a good job, but I think he's very reckless. I think you're seeing that with Liverpool at the minute. And that's kind of the difference between him and Pep. I think when Pep loses it, Pep lost it to a point of everyone tried to encourage a crisis at the club, whereas I feel like Liverpool kind of have one.
Well, with Pep Guardiola, one thing you've got to look to is the fact that they lost the league title last season to Liverpool, but they still came away with a trophy. I know it's only the League Cup, but they still won silverware, even in a season where. And I think he was very shrewd. I think midway through the season, he knew the league had gone. He was already planning for this season. Whilst Liverpool were out, pretty much got the title wrapped up. He was already planning his assault on this season, and I think that's what sets him apart. Really, is the fact that they continuously just rebrand, go again, recycle players, and he's bringing in players that I'll be honest, Cancelo, I'd never heard of him. Ruben Diaz, I had never heard of him. And now that might be quite poor to some football fans, but I don't really watch much foreign football. I know you're a massive Bundesliga fan. And I know those players didn't come from the Bundesliga, but some football fans, they might find that quite bizarre that I'd never heard of those players. But he's coaching them to a standard of play. I mean, look what he's doing with John Stones right now. He took him out of the side and he's brought him back. And who'd have ever thought that Aymeric Laporte would be warming the bench?
Yeah.
And I think that is what it is with Guardiola. It's his will to win. He competes on all fronts. People say, he hasn't won the Champions League at Bayern and he hasn't won the Champions League yet at Man City. He will.
I think he will. And I think, do you know what, even if he doesn't, like, Roberto Di Matteo won a Champions League.
Benitez won a Champions League.
Like, I'm not saying it means nothing, of course it doesn't, but like if you're talking Premier League managers, because I think if you're starting to stay away from Premier League, I think again the argument of Ferguson can come away from it, because I don't think Ferguson's the obvious number one worldwide, because he hasn't proved himself elsewhere. Do I think he could have gone to another club in Spain maybe and done the same? Probably, but we'll never actually know. That's why for me Mourinho is, I think he's chalk and cheese. I think he's a sell by date with everything that bloke does. But what he's achieved is ridiculous. To win Champions Leagues with, I mean, three different clubs.
Mourinho. No, it's just two, and it's Porto and Inter.
Do you not win at Real Madrid?
No.
I thought he was three. Is he the first one to do it in two different countries?
No, I think Ancelotti. I think he's done it in two different countries, I think. But he's won three, hasn't he, Ancelotti? I think AC Milan, Juventus. So yeah, actually, that ain't a bad shout at all.
But like, I'm sure I've heard a stat like that before, and I just think
I might have to check that one.
Like it's one of them. Does he play the best football? No, but again, it's all about results. It's all about results. If Tottenham win the Europa League this year, do you think they'll moan about the style of football they've played against? Like in half the games this year, they wouldn't care. They will not care one bit. So, who's fifth on that list, by the way, the Premier League managers? Because I feel like Klopp does slot in at number 4.
I actually had Wenger in at 4 ahead of Klopp. I did. I put Wenger in because at the end of the day,
ruined his legacy a bit, didn't he?
I think he did, but I think what he did in the early 2000s, he took on a treble-winning United side, and over that 6-year period, they were 3-3 in Premier League titles, and to this day, the Invincibles are what they are. It's never been matched, and I don't believe it ever will be matched either. I think
he also nurtured, to be fair to him. So I've never been a massive fan, but I can't even think of another fifth to even put in there. But he's nurtured one of the best players that's been in the Premier League, and that's Henry. Because Henry wasn't great when he came to Arsenal. He really wasn't. Like I remember when they signed him. When he the replacement for Anelka.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Like he was not good. And then he turned out to be probably everyone's favourite player in Premier League all time. Like as a new, unless you support probably Spurs, Man United, or Chelsea, he's probably your favourite Premier League player ever. So it's pretty good.
I think Van Persie as well was being another one that, obviously he brought through and took a strike, and he really was world class, wasn't he, Van Persie?
Oh yeah.
And
For a while
that scored all different types of goals. Okay, then next question. It's the classic question, but Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Seems to be getting slaughtered.
It's not for me. Messi. The thing is, right? They're both great. This is I hate when people say, "Oh, they're brilliant." We're so lucky to have. I think Barry Bannon said it as well. But it's true. It is very, very true that we're so lucky to be able to see them both. You can't argue that bloke's record. He's won it in every country going near enough. He's played for the best sides, but who do you want him to play for? Do you want him to come and sign for sort of Brighton? He's not going to do it. He's going to play for the best clubs. Internationally, I think any fan who says that Portugal squad is better than the Argentina one is lying to themselves. To have not done anything internationally, that's not great on Messi. And the quality of footballs he's played with at Barcelona is another level.
Ronaldo wasn't even on the pitch in that Euro final.
They wouldn't have been in the final there if they hadn't been for him. That finally was that tournament. He was unreal.
The big chance with Messi was the World Cup final, wasn't it? I think he'll be forever kicking Gonzalo Higuain, won't he?
Yeah, but if I remember rightly, he actually had a really bad game that game, Messi. He actually was really bad on a personal level. And I thought, for me, it's easy, but I can understand why people like Messi, and he's a fantastic player to watch. Unreal, but it's for me, it's Ronaldo every time.
Interesting. We might have to get a little graphic on the side, I think, with a running tally on this one. Okay, then. So just moving on then, last item, this weekend's game. Because I personally am writing off the midweek game. I know you think that we may go there and compete, but I personally...
Genuinely, right, I don't know why. When's this going out? Is this going out before or after? Because I'm wondering if you can get rid of it.
No, I'm going to aim to get this out before the Man City game.
I think they got to lose at some point. It just wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me if we beat them. It really wouldn't. It would be so Wolves to get a result like that game against Newcastle, where everyone writes, because everyone was quite riding this wave of we're going to start challenging the top 7 or 8 again this year if we get some good results back to back. Then we get that result against Newcastle. It would be very Wolves to put that back on pace now by beating City. But now, I get what you mean. We write it off.
Yeah, I'd write it. I think Ryan Lester's just tweeted it out that he basically just go there, and put a fringe team out. So I'm pretty much go along with that, to be honest. I would just throw it. I would treat it as a bit of a dead rubber. Next weekend really is the bigger game for us. It's the game where we've got a solid chance of going there and get a result. Again, another game where we want to avoid 6 points being taken off us, but more importantly, we need to get there, put a positive performance in and attempt to get a result. At this moment in time, I can't see us going there and winning the game personally, but I can't see us getting beat either. I think I'm going to sit on the fence with this one at the moment, and I am going to go with a 1-1 draw.
I think anything's possible in the game. I think I could see both teams being the better team. My worry is that our worst performance means that we can't even compete on any level, whereas I feel like Villa's minimum level will be enough to trouble us. Grealish going to be back.
It was at home, weren't it? I mean, they were. We were.
They robbed us that day, by the way.
We were good
that
day,
day,
and
they robbed us.
They know themselves. Yeah, I think so.
I think without Grealish, I think they're there to be taken. They are really there for the taking, but then they got a good result yesterday. Really, I've never liked Villa ever. I know this recently has always been like a bit of a resurgence, not resurgence, but like a bit of a rivalry because we've always been in the same league. But I've never been a fan of the Villa. not for me. But they are the biggest club here, and I think like there's always one to try and take points off of. And we've actually had some decent success against them as well. But I wouldn't take a draw just because it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like as well, that's the problem as well. Like if we'd have under different circumstances, I'd 100% take a draw at Villa Park. But like, if we beat them, can we still catch them? Like, so I think we'll lose personally. I think it'll be a 2-1 or maybe 2-0. 2-0 I'll go. I think Martinez, despite being the worst goal I've ever seen wear a Wolves shirt.
Yeah. For all your viewers anyway, head over to the Twitter page where if you do make a prediction and you are correct, you'll go into the draw to win one of these bad boys Centre Circle podcast mug. So again, head over to the Twitter page and I'll put the link in the description below. Okay then, Mark, it's been fantastic having you on. You are welcome back anytime. And all the best for the future. I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, mate. Speak to you later.